The industry is actually set for a boom as the Nigerian LNG commenced the construction of its Train 7 project. Well, this, according to government, is aimed at boosting the country's liquefied natural gas output by some 35%. The long-expected $10 billion project is expected to add around 8 million tons a year of liquefied natural gas to NLNG, taking the total to about 30 million tons per year, as Nigeria's LNG's production has been declining in recent years. Aside its numerous prospects to the oil and gas sector, the project will have a great impact on the nation's fragile economy by increasing government's revenue, job creation, as well as repose foreign investors' confidence into the country. I introduced him earlier. He's joining us live from our Abuja studios. He's a senior special assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on public affairs, Mr. Ajuri Nglali. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Nglali.
Truly a humbling privilege to be with you, my brother. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, I'm going to start first with your reaction to the commencement of the construction of a Train 7 project. What's your direct reaction to that? And, you know, the projected outputs, projections, and all of this. How does all of that come to you? Let's start on that note.
Yeah, thank you very much once again. I think mainly this is something that has been much awaited. It's been discussed for a number of years. Of course, with President Muhammadu Buhari's really active efforts at ensuring that this project sees the light of day, a lot of groundwork has been done over the last 3 to 4 years in particular that has now set the stage for the commencement of construction on the $10 billion NLNG Train 7 project. I think it's really important first to note what are the advantages to the Nigerian economy and to Nigerians at large. First and foremost, what it's going to accomplish for us as a nation is that it's going to enhance our gas production capacity from the current 2.2 million tons per annum to about 3.0 million tons per annum in this Train 7 project alone. That is essentially adding a third of our total production to our current total production, which is very, very significant. Now, in addition to that, in terms of the immediate benefits, you have the immediate establishment of about 12,000 direct construction jobs. You have about 40,000 indirect construction jobs that will arise from this project alone. And I think it's extremely important also to note that President Muhammadu Buhari said, look, it's not enough for us just to have this landmark project to enhance the Nigerian gas sector and make sure that to ensure that we actualize our potentials. We also have to ensure that as much of this project as possible is based on local content and local capacity development, which is why the president was able to secure 100% local content in terms of the fabrication works, procurements, and construction taking place to ensure that we achieve maximum multiplying economic impact on all other sectors of the economy. So there's really quite a lot to look forward to when we look at Train 7. And it also, of course, finally positions us to now begin the groundwork on Train 8 so that once Train 7 is fully constructed over the next few years, we can move immediately onto the construction of Train 8 as against what has happened previously where we would complete one train, several years would go by, and then we would now begin the kind of the groundwork, you know, the regulations and the consultations and all of those things to now achieve another train. We're going to do that while Train 7 is under construction so that we can move immediately onto the construction of Train 8 once this is concluded.
Very good way to start. Real insights into what is expected. Now, let me ask you this. The forecast of this $10 billion project is expected to add around 8 million tons a year to liquefied natural gas to NLNG, taking the total to around 30 million tons per year. Mr. Nglali, you agree with me that this is capital intensive. Your thoughts on funding sources and meeting up with deadline for completion of construction?
Yes, a very important question indeed. And this is why it's extremely important for us to really work in a very synergized fashion with the organized private sector. If you look at NLNG by its composition, you know that the breakdown obviously involves multiple stakeholders that boast of decades of world-class experience in the oil and gas industry, partners like Eni, partners like Total, etc., working with the NNPC. So we've been able to work out all of the funding and financing arrangements and modalities to ensure that there's absolutely no delay in terms of the implementation and execution of this project. Look, if you talk to the president, fortunately for us, I think one of the most understated elements of President Muhammadu Buhari's kind of lifetime achievements and preparation for his current office is the fact that he was the first Commissioner of Petroleum Resources at the inception of the NNPC. And the master plan around, liquefied natural gas, for example, was put in place by President Muhammadu Buhari when he was the Commissioner of Petroleum Resources. And he would be the first to tell you that if successive administrations that followed his time in office had executed faithfully his master plan from 1978, that we would have been doing this same Train 7 in the early 1990s. That's how far behind we are as a result of failed administration in the past. But of course, the man who set up the master plan is now putting us back on course to ensure that we maximize our potentials, and it's better late than never. But certainly, in terms of financing, all of that has been put in place.
Now, you touched on Train 8, the commencement of Train 8, which is an even bigger project. Let me ask now, what strategies to speed up construction and production chains do you see redefining the timelines of delivery?
Yeah, thank you very much. You know, a lot of this has to do with an integrated master plan.
Yes.
This is one administration that does not conduct its policy in terms of implementation of projects, looking at things through silos. Everything is integrated. So for example, it's one thing to dramatically enhance your gas production, which we're doing with Train 7. It's another thing altogether to simultaneously ensure that you're also upgrading the transportation and distribution networks, which is why President Muhammadu Buhari has conducted the most advanced and determined infrastructure drive in terms of our gas pipelines. As I speak to you right now, President Muhammadu Buhari has put in place essentially the dualization of the Escravos to Lagos gas pipeline from approximately 1.1 billion standard cubic feet per day movement to 2.2 billion standard cubic feet per day movement. That is going to have dramatic implication for Western industry and industry across the South-South, that dualization that this president has put in place. Secondly, the president put in place OB3, the Obiafu, Obricom, Oben gas pipeline running from River State through Delta to Edo State, which is going to also dualize essentially from 1.1 billion standard cubic feet up to 2.2 billion standard cubic feet per day. Now, finally, the latest one, which most Nigerians are now familiar with, is President Muhammadu Buhari has now put in place the multi-billion-dollar Ajeokuta to Kaduna to Kano gas pipeline, which is going to also ensure that you have well over 2.2 billion standard cubic feet per day in gas moving all the way through the midsection to the country to the north to ensure that we're able to effectively industrialize all parts of the nation really for the first time. And this is going on strategically, running through Ajeokuta, Etakpe Ajeokuta, where you have the Nigerian Iron Ore Mining Company, which of course produces the iron that you will now send to the Ajeokuta Steel Complex, which this administration is aggressively finalizing the resuscitation on, then up to Kaduna, then up to Kano. And ultimately, I must mention that the AKK is actually going to take us from Nigeria's northern region across the Sahara into northern Africa, because the president understands that the future of the Nigerian economy is not based on oil, it's based on the international export of Nigerian gas to other nations. And that is what Mr. President is putting us in position to achieve, not just on the production side, but also on the distribution side.
Now, a little lighter note now. Let's look at issue of safety when we talk of gas. Yes, the DPR came out to even give us the new reserves we have. I think we're doing better than we used to do. But Mr. Ngelale, personally, infrastructure and safety issues is something that is worrisome. Are we also trying to work to maintain standards so that we don't have challenges? gas seems to be more sensitive, even other than PMS, diesel, and all of that. Nigerians would like to know if there's anything in place. Safety is key.
Oh, I totally agree with you, my brother. And unfortunately, President Muhammadu Buhari is at the forefront of the thinking around ensuring that the highest levels and standards of safety and quality assurance are adhered to in the implementation of these projects. First and foremost, you know, we've talked a lot about gas production and distribution, not enough about processing in the country. And that's why President Muhammadu Buhari, through the NPDC, has put in place a $200 or $300 million liquefied petroleum gas plant, processing plant in Oredo of Edo State, which was just opened for business in December 2020. The reason why that's very crucial is it's one thing to deal with gas production expansion, which of course we are doing. Another thing to deal with gas distribution, ensuring that it gets to all parts of the country, which we are also doing. But it's also another thing to ensure that you're not just dealing with the production and distribution of raw products. You're also thinking about how you can add value to the raw products so that you can maximize the impact of Nigerian gas production and potential on all aspects of the Nigerian economy and society at large, which is why when you look at the LPG plant in Edo, which is just the first of many that are coming on stream, not just through the NPDC and NNPC on the government end, but also through active collaboration between the NCDMB and local content producers, local companies who are going to be opening up private LPG production plants because of the tax incentives being given to them by the federal government of Nigeria. So what that's going to allow us to do is LPG, we understand, is going to be the future in terms of alternative energy, making sure that at a time when PMS prices are rising significantly and very swiftly, at a time when you have such reliance on PMS in the country in terms of making sure the economy works, it's affecting the price of food items, the price of transport, the price of so many commodities. We're now saying LPG is the future, and this plant is going to be able to satisfy 20% of Nigeria's local demand, and it's just one plant out of several that we're in the middle of constructing. So we're very optimistic that as long as Nigerians keep faith with us, as we continue to implement our plans, yes, the immediate term is challenging, no doubt about that, but we are certainly making progress in moving toward a future that all Nigerians are going to be proud of, that gives us alternative energy supplies, that gives us diversified revenue bases, and I think President Muhammadu Buhari, history will judge him very well for what he's doing.
Now, I want to look at the NLNG story again, if you allow me, generating $114 billion in revenue over the years, and paid like $9 billion in taxes, $18 billion in dividends to the federal government, and $15 billion to the Fed gas purchase, feed gas purchase, I beg your pardon. Now, this process seems to be very successful. Are we trying to replicate this NLNG process or format in other transactions in the oil and gas industry? Because it seems to be very successful.
What a fantastic question. You know, this is something that we're really very excited about, because the truth of the matter is, when we believe as an administration that sunlight is the best disinfectant, meaning that when the books are open, very little can go wrong because there's transparency. Where there's opacity, a lot of things go wrong in the dark. So one of the things that we believe in very much is with the NLNG experience and with other partnerships that have been put in place. If you look at, for example, the executive order on road refurbishment tax credit scheme, for example, where we're partnering with the private sector to fund very significant infrastructure projects across the work sector. We're also applying that to oil and gas. So now President Muhammadu Buhari has put in place a new mechanism for the reconstruction of our refineries to ensure that once these refineries are reconstructed, that we can now adopt an NLNG-like model to ensure that we don't find ourselves in the same position that we now find ourselves, where you have a 100% publicly owned facility that's basically dependent more or less on the integrity of public administrators. The president says, look, if you aggressively bring in you have to be careful about which private sector participants you're bringing in, because we know that from experience that you can have private sector participants that are just as bad as poor administrators. So you have to bring in good ones. So the president said, look, as we're doing our refineries now, a major part of the framework is ensuring that once they're done, like the Port Harcourt refinery, we're now reconstructing, the same with Wari and Kaduna. We should have an announcement on that by the end of the year. We're now going to be bringing in very established, experienced private sector partners that are going to help us run a kind of joint venture arrangement in the future management of those facilities after they're reconstructed, so that we accrue the revenues to the Federation while ensuring that the worst aspects of public administration in the history of the country are not brought to bear on the future of those facilities.
Now, let's look at jobs now to be created. Utilizing the gas reserves in the country, no doubt, opens up opportunities for thousands of jobs and direct jobs. I see 12,000 direct jobs and about 40,000 indirect jobs to be created here. Training and retraining of our human resource cannot be overemphasized. But I think the focus should be on technology transfer. We need to see increased automated processes. What do you make of? What do you think about this?
You're 100% right. And this is something that I think we have to really address more publicly in terms of what it is that we're doing and must be done in terms of enhancing local content and local capacity. I've already referred to it in the context of Train 7. Already local content, local companies are heavily engaged in the execution of Train 7 moving forward. But that's not all. I think if you look very carefully at what we've been doing with NCDMB, we're moving very aggressively toward Mr. President's target to ensure that 70% of the Nigerian oil and gas sector is being administered by local companies or comprising of local companies. And the way that we're doing that is very systematic. If you look at, for example, what we're doing with modular refineries, so many of the modular refineries are coming up are local companies. If you look at even the partnerships, the NCDMB, the Content Development and Monitoring Board headquartered in Bielsa, is doing in collaboration with the new modular refineries. We even have ownership stake in collaboration with local indigenous companies in the establishment of modular refineries. But we're not stopping there. If you look at even the AKK pipeline, this is a multi-billion-dollar project. Even OB3 that I've mentioned, multi-billion-dollar project that is being contracted to a Nigerian company, OilServe, run by Chief Emeka Okwosa. So when you look across the board, the president is not just saying we need to build this infrastructure. Yes, very, very important. But we have to be very strategic about it in making sure that we achieve maximum multiplying impact on the nation's economy by ensuring that it goes to local companies that are hiring local labor, that are using local raw materials in the construction of these projects. That has been a focus of President Muhammadu Buhari from day one, and that will be a continuous focus for President Muhammadu Buhari until his very last day in office, not just in the oil and gas sector, but across multiple sectors.
I think we need to always have conversations like this to educate Nigerians and, of course, bring them up to speed with what's playing out and what's been happening, because this clearly explains all of these moves. Mr. Ngalale, as we wrap up, what more are we expecting? We could even move away from the oil and gas industry. A lot of projections. What more are we looking at as the country beats COVID-19 by one way or the other? We must not drop guards, but what more should we expect?
Well, I think there are a number of things that we should expect. First and foremost, before the end of July, it's expected that we would have passed, the National Assembly would have passed the much-awaited petroleum industry bill, which should fully and fundamentally reform the oil and gas sector in the country, making it much more attractive to foreign direct investors, but in a way that is not at the expense of the federal government of Nigeria, but to the benefit of the federal government of Nigeria. We're also expecting the passage of the Electoral Act Amendment, hopefully before the end of August. That's something that we're eagerly anticipating, so that INEC has more than enough time to conduct the most transparent election in the history of the country in 2023. And then, of course, the Nigerians should expect hard infrastructure projects, the completion of hard infrastructure projects across the country. We have the new international airport terminal in Lagos that should be constructed, fully completed by the end of this year. The new international airport terminal, Akanu Ibiam International Airport Terminal in Enugu, that should be completed before the end of this year. And then, of course, next year we have the second Niger Bridge and the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, both sections fully completed in 2022. There is a lot to look forward to, and we look forward to updating Nigerians as we commence progress on those very important projects.
And we would also reach out to you to come bring us up to speed and also use our platform to talk to Nigerians and let them understand this. I must appreciate you for joining us this Monday. I've been speaking to the Senior Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on Public Affairs, Mr. Ajuri Ngalale. Thank you very much, and of course, enjoy the rest of your day.
God bless you, and thank you for having me. Have a wonderful day.